A question that used to pop up in my mind a lot when I was in AA, especially in the early days, it worried me because I was one of the people in the early days that there were many, many times I would leave a meeting and I'd go straight to a liquor store. And I had a couple of different plans when I would do this. I remember one time I would leave the meeting about 15 minutes early, and I would say, okay, they'll all be standing around talking, and they'll all be standing around socializing, and that'll give me enough time to get in and out of a liquor store, so I won't probably run into somebody, or somebody probably won't see me. I was literally in a state of terrified anxiety about doing it too. It was like I literally felt like I was somebody that was violating a blasphemous code in some religion and could be stoned to death for doing it. That's literally how terrified that was to me mentally. Or there were a couple of times I would wait after a meeting and I'd see everybody leaving early and I'd think, okay, and they'll all be at their little coffee shops harassing the waitresses and harassing the hired help. I could make a whole video, by the way, about the way they treat people in the outside world in those meetings after the meetings, but I won't do that here. So that gives me time to get to a liquor store and get in and get out. And I can tell you this one particular kind of funny story. It was, because I used to kind of wonder, what am I going to do if I run into somebody here? What am I going to do if I'm coming out of a liquor store and somebody sees me and because the liquor stores, a lot of the ones I went to at that time, they were in shopping centers. And, I would park, here's the liquor store, and I would park at the store right here, and then I'd kind of walk real fast, and I would look back and forth, and I would run in. And a lot of the liquor stores in every locality I've ever lived in, they would see me daily. So they all knew what I was going to get anyway. I've heard people say they like to go to different liquor stores because they didn't want, the liquor store owners to think they were drunks or whatever. In my particular case, I actually liked it that they knew me because when I'd walk through the door, a lot of them would have my stuff sitting on the counter waiting on me. There was quite a few there was one guy I remember in particular. I'd walk in and he would say, "Do you want one or two?" He was talking about half gallons on vodka. But there was one time I was coming out of a shopping center and I did see an AA guy. He was parked. He was in the shopping center. He was coming out of another store, and he looked directly at me, and I kind of did the shit, I mean, my heart was pumping. I've been caught. I'm violating the religious code. I'm blaspheming, or I've committed a sin. In the AA religion, but I kind of just started walking to my car, and he comes straight up to me, and he's got this phony concern on his face. To be honest, I think he was actually overjoyed, but he came up to me and he's like, "Victor, are you all right?" Like that. And I said, "My name's not Victor." And I don't even know where this came from. I never made a plan that I would do this. I never made a plan that I was going to say, "I'm not who you think I am." I thought I was just going to say, "Hey, fuck off. I'm having a bad day. Look, we're not in a meeting. Take it elsewhere." Or, "Look, I'm not interested." I thought I would do any of those things. I never dreamed I would say, "I'm not who you think I am." But I said, "My name is not Victor." And he said, "Well, I saw you at the AA meeting, and, you were picking up a white chip 2 nights ago, and I just thought maybe," I'd said, "AA meetings, white chips, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. I mean, I've never been to an AA meeting. I look like a lot of people. I hope you find this guy you're looking for, but I don't know." And I just kept walking to my car. I thought he would maybe take a hint and go away, but he kind of followed me a little bit further, and he said, "Well, look, let me give you my number. I want to help you." And I said, "Look, I'm sorry. I don't know who you are. I hope you find this guy, but I'm not the guy you're looking for." And then I left. And I thought, holy shit, I got to get a more careful routine than this. As embarrassing as that is, I never thought I would do that. I have no idea where that reaction came from. I have no idea, But I've had people ask me over the years, do you think all the people in there that are claiming their 20 years of sobriety, their 15 years of sobriety, do you think they really have all that time? Do you think there are people who have slipped and just not told anybody? Do you think there's people who are probably still drinking and never told anybody? And at first, when I was new to the religious program, I would say to myself, I don't think that's true. I think I'm probably the only guy in here that's constantly relapsing. And, if someone says, are you drinking today? I'd be like, no, I'm not drinking, even though I was about to go drink or something like that. But over time, after being in the cult for as long as I was in the cult, and after seeing a few things, I don't really believe that 90% of those people have the time they're claiming they have. For one thing, you can't really be honest in an AA meeting if you relapse, unless you're going to be like I was. I was always going, in the early days, until I got to a point where I just wouldn't say nothing. I was always going to meetings and just not saying anything unless somebody asked me, and I'd say, okay, yeah, I've been drinking, or I'd pick up white chips, or I didn't really try to hide the fact that I was fucking up, is what I'm getting at. But in terms of the people that are saying they got 10 years, 15 years, all of that, when you really think about it, you can't really be honest about that stuff, because if you are around AA for any specific period of time, and you're kind of semi-popular because you got the right old-timer sponsor and you got the right circle of friends and you got, you're getting the celebrity status that you always so hopelessly crave to have in society, and now you're a celebrity, a miniature celebrity, and you get to be a comedian and you get to be an important guru. You're not going to go into a meeting and admit that you've done something that will cause you to lose all of that. I've seen people do it, and I've seen people literally get driven almost into completely despondent drunkenness because of it. For instance, there was a guy, and his story sounded a little shaky to me. I mean, I think anybody who's a drinker or a drug addict would know what I'm talking about, but he was celebrating 8 years. He was always a guru. He was always getting called on. He was always demanding everybody do this or die and all that other thing. And then something kind of came up, and his story was that he stopped and bought a 12-pack of beer for a roommate, and he drank one of the beers on the way home, and then he stopped after that, and then it just didn't sound realistic to me. I mean, at all. It sounded like, hey, I kind of got caught, and I'm making up a cover story here. But anyway, he picked up a white chip, and of course nobody called on him in meetings anymore, and nobody paid him any attention anymore, and he didn't have any sponsees any longer. And like flash forward 6 or 7 months later, and he was literally staggering into meetings drunk as hell, and he was literally leaving meetings drunk as hell. He was dabbling in all kinds of illegal substances and everything else, and he was talking about how, once you go back out, there's no ever getting normal again. You can never come back. You can never do this, that, and the other. I wonder how many people I saw, because that's just one case out of many that I saw over the years. I saw a lot of those cases. But I would see the people give those guys, really hardcore cold shoulders. They were really hard rejected when they would do something like that. And it always made me wonder if there wasn't some kind of a guilty thing going on with them, because they were just so adamantly angry at anybody who would slip. And those people who would slip, it was a self-fulfilling prophecy. I mean, I just saw that repeated over and over again. I knew people who were actively smoking pot and claiming they had all these years of sobriety, and they would say, well, pot is an outside issue, and everybody would tell me, well, what do you care if they're smoking pot or not? What's that got to do with you? I don't care that people are smoking pot and going to meetings. I don't care if you want to pick up a 20-year medallion and you're smoking pot the whole entire time. What pisses me off about that is these same people that I knew for a fact were smoking pot were condemning their sponsees for having a drink or a slip. We're sitting in there saying things like some have to die so that others can live. We're constantly talking about how they had given their life over to God and God had worked a miracle in their life. And I'm thinking, dude, you're going home and smoking pot every night. I don't care if you want to go home and smoke pot, but don't treat relapsers, don't treat me as well like shit because, we drank. I knew people who abused prescription drugs. I knew people who bought prescription drugs off the street. One of the sponsors I had that was really, really cold-blooded towards relapsers, was really cruel towards relapsers, who literally said that if it were up to him, he would step over a dying man in the street just to get sober in a meeting. I knew for a fact he was popping pills off the streets. I knew for a fact he was doing other things as well. He had a sponsee one time that relapsed, and he took all the sponsee's medication from his house, claiming he was going to hold it for him so he wouldn't abuse him. The sponsee never got his medications back, and I know for a fact he confiscated all of it. And I know several instances like that. I know of an old timer who would literally would give newcomer girls in meetings Xanaxes. He would sell it to them, and I even saw him do it one time. So it's not rumors and hearsay here, man. My point being, I could sit here all day long and tell you instances like this, and I would never get to the end of it. The point is, if you're engaging in all that kind of behavior, and that kind of behavior is going on all the time, do you really expect me to believe that these people haven't drank along the way or slipped and drank along the way? I mean, there were people I knew that were doing really hardcore drugs like coke, and they were claiming, by the grace of God, they hadn't had a drink today. Let me ask you a question, and I'm posing this to all of you. You can chime in on the comments and tell me what you think. If you're doing a drug like pot or like really something like really hard like coke or whatever, do you really expect me to believe that you're going to wake up one morning, not be able to get your hands on any drugs, and you're not going to go get a drink or something, or you're not going to go drink any booze because you don't want to fuck up your sobriety? I mean, you have people all the time in AA that lie about what major badasses they were, that lie about what they're doing, that do all kinds of underhanded things to their sponsees, that do all kinds of underhanded things in the rooms, that steal money out of the basket, that engage in all kinds of nefarious style behaviors, and I'm supposed to believe that they never touched a drink during all of that because they didn't want to compromise their spiritual way of living. I don't think so. I mean, that's like trusting a thief with your money, and he says, well, I won't steal your money because I'm reformed today, but just ignore all these other crimes I'm doing on the side, but I'm not a thief any longer. I mean, I don't really believe that the people in there have all the time they're claiming. No, and I probably think, looking back on it now that I've been away from it for a long period of time, I think there's probably a lot more people that was doing exactly what I was doing and just not saying anything. I mean, I self-confessed a lot of the times when I was getting white chips. I self-confessed a lot of the times when I would relapse. There was a lot of relapses I had that I didn't have to tell a soul about them because I didn't go out on drunken benders in the early days. There were lots of relapses I had where I would just buy a bottle of booze and I'd go home and I'd watch TV and I would drink it, and I might wake up in the morning and have a few shots in case I drank a little too much, but that was the extent of it. I didn't drive drunk. I didn't go out and have a crazy psychotic episode. I didn't get in a bar fight. I didn't do any of those things. I went out and I drank. Nobody knew about that. Nobody saw that, to my knowledge. I wouldn't have had to fess up to any of that. So, no, I don't believe that all those people have the time they're claiming. I think there are probably some who do, but they're no different than people like who I am right now, where I'm not drinking today simply because I don't want to drink. It's not because the program works. It's not because they had a spiritual experience. It's not because they did a fourth and fifth step. If they're not drinking today and they haven't drank in several decades or whatever it is they're claiming, it's because they're kind of like where I am right now. They're not interested in drinking any longer. But no, I don't believe those sobriety dates are real because, like I said, if you went in and confessed to drinking again, you would lose your status in the cult. You would lose your guru position. You'd lose your business meeting position. You would lose the ability to be called on in every meeting. I remember one guy that was like the AA comedian in every meeting. He'd tell all these ridiculous stories, and everybody would die laughing, and everybody, was just talking about how wonderful he was. And then he came in one time, and he admitted he had been on a drunken bender, and he tried to kind of keep on his usual shtick, his act or whatever, and like literally when he would tell the same old kinds of stories that everybody used to die laughing about, nobody would laugh. Everybody gave him a cold shoulder. After a meeting, a whole group of people that used to brag on him was standing around saying, well, he just got off a drunken bender. Don't nobody want to hear his fucking shit, So yeah, AA is a very condemning, unforgiving society when it comes to drinking. When you drink, you're expected to go in there. You're expected to say that you didn't do the program right. You're expected to say that, you didn't do what you was told. You didn't pray. You're expected to do all those things. You got to get up and get the white chip. You got to do that walk of shame. And there's a lot of people, in my opinion, that just aren't going to do that. I heard one time, I only went to 2 Smart Recovery meetings, and I did see these terms used. I heard in Smart Recovery that they would use terms like lapse versus relapse. I lapsed, I didn't relapse, depending on how bad the bender was. But at the same time, the longer I'm away from all these programs, the more I believe that looking at not drinking in those kinds of terms is actually rather detrimental, because you're still defining your life behind how long you've been without booze, how long you've gone without booze, when you drank booze, when you last drank booze, how much booze you drank, when you slipped. I just don't believe in projecting like that today. I don't think that's healthy. I mean, it's not for me. It's not for me to count sobriety time today. Anyway, I've made this video way longer than I intended to, and I guess I'll see you guys next time.